Okay, so there's this major standoff happening right now between an American city and the federal government, and it all just blew up in the span of a few days. We're going to break down what exactly is going on in Minneapolis and why this story is so much bigger than just one city.
So the big question is, why is a top Border Patrol commander and his team suddenly packing their bags and getting out of Minneapolis? This whole thing escalated incredibly fast, really just over a single weekend. So let's get right into what happened.
Well, here's the headline. Commander Gregory Bovino and at least some of his Border Patrol agents are pulling out of Minnesota. And we're not talking about next week or next month. The word being used is imminently. It is happening right now.
So, what could possibly trigger such a dramatic and sudden move? Well, it all comes down to a single fatal encounter. The flashpoint for all of this was the tragic shooting death of a 37-year-old Minneapolis resident named Alex Pretti. He was killed by a Border Patrol agent this past Saturday, and it all happened during one of these federal immigration operations.
But here's the thing. This wasn't some isolated incident out of the blue. It was actually the third shooting involving federal agents since this new operation kicked off in the city. You had Renee Good killed on January 7th, another man shot just weeks later, and now Alex Pretti. So you can see a really troubling pattern emerging here.
And this is where it all gets really complicated. You have two completely different stories about what happened in that moment. The Department of Homeland Security claims its agents feared for their lives because Pretti was legally carrying a gun. But then you look at the videos from witnesses at the scene, and they just don't give a clear angle that confirms the agents were actually in danger. So you're left with two conflicting narratives.
Okay, so let's zoom out for a second. To really get what's going on, we have to talk about the massive operation that brought all these agents to Minneapolis in the first place.
I mean, it's the first question you'd ask, right? Border Patrol? You think of the actual U.S. border, not the middle of a city like Minneapolis. So what in the world were they doing there?
Well, they were there as part of something called Operation Metro Surge, and it's pretty much what it sounds like, a huge surge of federal agents from different agencies, all coming together with a focus on immigration enforcement, right there in Minnesota.
And when I say huge, I mean huge. We are not talking about a small team here. We're talking about more than 3,000 federal agents on the ground in Minnesota as part of this surge. That is a massive federal presence.
So who are all these agents? Well, the bulk of them, about 2,000, are from ICE. But they're backed up by about 1,000 Customs and Border Patrol officers. And that's the agency whose commander is now at the very center of this whole firestorm.
Which, of course, brings us to the man himself, Commander Gregory Bovino. To understand why this situation blew up the way it did, you really have to look at his track record.
This guy's career has been, let's just say, controversial. He's known for leading these really aggressive enforcement operations in major cities all over the country. LA, Chicago. We're talking about tense campaigns, some that even involved tear gas. He was even removed from a command post under the prior administration for inappropriate conduct.
So yeah, people have questioned his methods for a while now. And it's not just protesters or politicians. We are talking about a federal judge questioning him in a court of law.
Yeah, get this. In an assessment from a U.S. judge during a lawsuit about an operation in Chicago, she said Bovino came across as evasive, that he was giving, quote, cute responses or outright lying. Her final conclusion? He was simply not credible. Wow. That is a federal judge basically calling him a liar under oath.
So you can see how this all came to a head, right? You've got the third fatal shooting, and it involves a commander with this kind of backstory. It was basically the perfect storm for a massive political backlash from the city of Minneapolis.
And that's exactly what happened. The city just erupted. The news about Alex Pretti's death sparked a whole weekend of protests and rallies. People flooded the streets demanding answers, and more than anything, they wanted the federal agents out of their city. And the city's leadership responded. Mayor Jacob Frey came out with this really strong and clear message. He basically drew a line in the sand, saying that Minneapolis will not participate in federal immigration enforcement, period. And that local pressure campaign went straight to the top. The mayor got on the phone directly with President Trump, and right after that call, he announced the deal. Commander Bovino and some agents are leaving. But the mayor also made it clear he's not stopping there. His goal is to shut down the entire Operation Metro Surge. So here's where we're left. You have a complete and total breakdown of trust between a major American city and the federal government. When an operation like this turns deadly and fractures that relationship, it forces us all to ask a really big question. What does this mean for the future of immigration enforcement in cities all across America?